President of the United States just posting on his Truth Social, last week's jobs report was rigged. Just like the numbers prior to the presidential election were rigged. That's why in both cases, there was massive record-setting revisions in favor of Democrats. Those big adjustments were made to cover up and level out the fake political numbers that were concocted in order to make a great Republican success look less stellar. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We got it there. And then a MAGA, all caps, exclamation point. The president has to be very careful here on something. He's got to be very careful he doesn't pull a Biden. Now, what I mean by that is not policy-wise. I believe the policies will be just fine and will work far better than anything Joe Biden ever did.
Come on, man.
But you can't tell people how to feel about the economy. We're not stupid. And while I think there are a lot of good signs and a lot of good trends, and thank goodness we locked in tax cuts that will spur private sector growth, we are cutting down on the bureaucracy, not as fast as I would like, but it's happening. There's a lot of reasons to like the big picture of the economy. But there still is pain out there. As we saw last week, the jobs numbers not as frothy as people expected them to be. Hiring may be slowing. Unemployment may be ticking up. Housing is still wildly unaffordable. Grocery prices are still at all-time highs. Now, none of this is Trump's fault, but it's still a reality from tens of millions of Americans right now. So you just don't want to, like Biden would always say about inflation, hey, it's not that bad, or look, it's coming down, or things aren't as bad as some of my opponents make it out to be. The American people aren't dumb. We're not stupid. Okay? And while I believe there are great signs with the economy that will play out in the months to come, there still is admittedly a lot of short-term pain right now. And that's not going to be solved by a quarter point or a half point interest rate cut by the Fed. It's not. It's not going to happen. And I also struggled with the line here when the president said that the jobs numbers that were revised in favor of the Democrats. Well, last year they revised the job numbers down 1 million for the prior 12 months. Remember that? That technically was not revised in favor of the Democrats. That made Joe Biden's economy look even worse than it was. And then if you're going to say the jobs numbers are fake or are revised to help just Democrats, well, there better be some proof to back it up. And there really isn't right now. So I would just say this. Rather than saying things like the jobs numbers are fake or, the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is out to get me, the better approach is, hey, here's what we're doing to try to mitigate short-term pain. And here's why what we've done so far, and we're going to continue to focus on certain things that will alleviate the pain of the last few years and will be better for you in the months and years to come. Whether you're a single person, retired, family with kids, whatever it might be, here's why our policies are going to work. And here are some positive things that have happened in recent months that show you they're working. Like, there is good news out there. And I'd rather hear stuff like this from the president than like everything I don't like is fake. Here, how about this? This jobs report, did you know this? Did you hear this? This would be great on Truth Social. Here's a little tidbit for you. The jobs report was the best July ever for employment among native-born Americans, up 2 million year over year. An annual growth 2.2 million faster than among foreign-born workers. Native-born American employment is now 1.8 million above pre-pandemic levels. I'm sharing this right now on X at Pete Mundo. You can see it there for yourself. You can look at the data and see it there for yourself. Like that's amongst the headline news, which was disappointing. that's a great little kernel of information that the president can literally talk about, look to, and say, that is making America great again because we are putting Americans first. We are putting American workers over foreign workers. And frankly, that should be the job of the president of the United States, should it not? Like, this is no-brainer stuff that he can be bragging about and should be bragging about. Instead of like, the jobs report is made up or the numbers are fake. But a month ago, you're bragging about the numbers. So which one is it? You can't have it both ways, especially when there's good information out there that you can showcase to the American people. Even if the media, I didn't even see Fox talking about this, but I might have missed it. But there's a lot of things out there that you can be looking at, pointing to and saying, all right, this is what we're going to work on. And this is why there's good news beyond just the headline that wasn't necessarily positive. There's also this. There was a big focus over the weekend from Dr. Oz, who, of course, is part of the administration, and the fact that they're going to try to get some of these drug prices under control. Dr. Oz is now the administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. That's his current role with the Trump administration. And he was on CBS yesterday on their Sunday morning show and said their next target is going to be figuring out how to get these drug prices under control, which we know are bankrupting millions of Americans.
Well, the president's letter on Thursday for most favored nation pricing is a good example of that. And he's been working on this tirelessly since the first administration. And just to put this in context for many of the viewers, about 2/3 of bankruptcies in America are caused by healthcare expenses. About 1/3 of people, when they go to the pharmacy, they leave empty-handed. They can't afford the medication. So the president has said, enough global freeloading. We've been covering much of the development costs for new drugs to cure cancer, deal with lots of other illnesses that are life-threatening. It isn't time for the American public to understand that we should not be paying 3 times more for the exact same medication in the same box, made in the same factory. So the president's saying, equalize it out. Let's use a model that's worked, for example, for external threats. That's what NATO did. Everyone has to pay a little more. We'll pay extra too, but we won't pay a lot more than everybody else. So they actually have to raise their contributions, in this case to an internal threat, which is illness. We'll pay a little less in America. That way more Americans can afford these medications, and it's a fair system for the entire globe.
I love that from Dr. Oz. And if that happens, that will be a huge win for tens of millions of Americans. And what Dr. Oz is saying there is like all these other countries, many in Europe that have all these fixed pricing in for drugs and healthcare items, they're freeloading off of America. It's American ingenuity. It's American companies. They're obviously pouring billions of dollars into research and development, R&D, to make these drugs. They understandably have to make that money back. But they're then having to do it on the backs of the American citizen because they can't make any of the money overseas from these European countries because they've got price controls in place. The answer is not price controls here in America, which is what the Biden administration and many others on the left have proposed. It doesn't work. All that will do is crush research and development. And unless you want the government running research and development for your drugs and your healthcare going forward, and no one should want that, that would be like the post office. Could you imagine the post office running R&D for drug companies? That would be a mess. Can't even get a letter from point A to point B in a reasonable amount of time these days. What you really need to have happen is the American government basically working on some deal with the EU and some of these other countries to say, you know what, you're going to kick in way more for these drugs that you're getting from us and our companies than you currently are. I don't care who's paying for it, whether it's the governments over there or the citizens over there who are kicking more in. However you want to do it's up to you. But the days of you guys freeloading off of American ingenuity is over because you've got too many Americans who are paying way too much money for these drugs while in Europe they're getting a free ride. That is a great thing for this administration to be focused on over the next 6 to 12 months, and I hope that they have success doing it. Because that would be game-changing for tens of millions of people. And if they can pull it off, man, I mean, that would be big time going into the midterms. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO. Pete, with all due respect to Dr. Oz, this on the text line, if price controls are bad when Biden suggests it, or Mamdani, this New York City mayoral candidate, then it's bad when Trump does it as well. See, I don't think what he's talking about is price controls. My interpretation of that clip is to basically get these European countries largely to kick in more. That way we will see a reduction, hopefully, in our drug prices because suddenly Europe is not freeloading off of the development of these drugs that are happening right here in the United States.